Thank you, Cocker.
Hello. Welcome. Believe it or not, it's me, robnoerr. Back doing another show. Not at home, so no camera, but it's okay. At least I got the the internet up and running. I'm not doing it on my phone with the camera blacked out on my phone, so it's good to see you all. Welcome to the Normal America Show. I'm your host, robnoerr. I hope everyone had a fantastic weekend. I did. I had one of my best weekends in a long, long time. Got to take my man Hank to a pumpkin patch. He had a blast. We brought him these little gourds. I watched Hank yesterday before I came into work. Take like 10 of these little gourds, put them in a bowl, then dump the bowl out, and put them back in the bowl. Just the biggest grin. I watched him do it for like an hour. It was like a metaphor for work. Like, yeah, you just do the same thing every day. But he was happy, so, yeah. But it's great to be here. Hopefully you all had as entertaining as a weekend as me. Let me see. Let me know if my mic's alright. It should be, but I'm trying to get things in order here, so. Hank's doing alright. His cast comes off. We go in to get his cast removed Thursday, and then they're going to do another x-ray and see if he needs to get another one put on. But they're pretty hopeful he doesn't. He's in good spirits. He's walking around on it. He's great. He's just best thing that's ever happened to me. He's fantastic. Me and my wife couldn't be happier. So, it sucks that he broke his leg, obviously, but he doesn't let it get him down. So hello to everyone. Hello to Achilles, David, Papa Prapa, my body double. Just a brief reminder, I can only see what's on screen because of the way this setup works when I'm not at home. So if anyone else messaged, hello to you all as well. No, believe it or not, I did not consume any illicit substances, nor did I put anything in any orifice of mine other than my mouth for eating purposes. So yeah, we thought Hank was a cool name too. We liked the idea of like a simple, older fashioned name. So, but yeah, I know it was a bummer. I think I handled it worse than he did. But I can't wait. I cannot wait for this Thursday for him to get that cast off. He's so active even with it on. So he's gonna be back just in time for Halloween. Trick or treating. He's dressing up as Bluey. Bluey's one of his favorite shows. It's an Australian cartoon about a family of dogs. It's actually a pretty good show. As far as a kid's show, I find it to be entertaining. So, when last you saw me, I was debating on the Crucible. I'll talk a little about that and some of the other debates I've had here recently. We'll talk about John Fetterman, and we'll just go from there. I plan on going for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Yeah, Ben was pretty sick. I'm supposed to do a show with Aircraft Sparky. Hopefully, I'll get that show in this week. He was messaging me before we started here. I could have done it tonight, but I have no camera. But I mean, if he wanted me to just do audio, that's fine. Otherwise, maybe I'll be doing that show with Sparky Wednesday. Perhaps I'll be doing it. So yeah. We could start wherever people want. We could start with Fetterman. Or we could start with sort of the debate I did Friday and just some of the people I've been interacting with in general. I got a couple things to say about. But it's up to you all. Whatever the audience would like to talk about. Also, I'm here in rural Pennsylvania. We're getting into like sub 50 degree temperatures. So then furnaces are kicking on, and I've just been sneezing your furnace kicks on for the first time, probably dust and stuff in the ducts, and been sneezing the past couple days all day. It's a bummer. So if I sound a little congested, I apologize for that. Talked to my friend Carlos on the phone today about some sort of campaign strategy and things like that. So it's been going good. All right, we'll talk about the debates that I've done recently, and then we'll get into Fetterman. Probably go till around 10:30 this evening. If you missed it, I debated someone named Ben Thorpe. I don't even know how to describe him politically. Authoritarian Catholic? So I guess he would consider himself right-wing. I don't know. He has a war on... He finds the root of all evil and bad things to be thought and ideas. And so he's waging a war on free speech and thought and ideas, I guess. And he thinks we should have sort of a Catholic authoritarianism, but he's against... He doesn't like people being in their own bubbles, but he's for the removal of the First Amendment. It's just a walking bunch of contradictions. And I'm going to explain a little bit about what I think's going on with him. But at first I wanted to say something in general. I don't think that I've been more... what's the word I want to use? Disappointed in sort of the online debate sphere in the entire time that I've been doing it as I am now. I mean, when you go back and you look at the past months of interactions I've had with people online, when I'm talking with Pisco, by far the best contentious interactions that I'm having. I can say what I want about Pisco. Sometimes I'm hyperbolic. I think Pisco's an intelligent guy. I think he's basically bad faith, or at least he's so partisan it seems that way. But you can have a conversation with him. And I enjoy those conversations. The same could be said of someone like Dylan Burns. Or even someone like Econo Boy. These are people that, although I might disagree with, and I think they might be bad faith, or if not bad faith, just ridiculously partisan beyond hope, at least you can have a conversation. It doesn't mean you walk away singing Kumbaya, but you can have a conversation. But look at the people I've interacted with and the stuff that I've done here in the past month. I did a panel on political shit show, which was unbelievable. The people on the panel were terrible. Probably, as far as the left-wingers on that panel, the most coherent person was Stardust. Okay. From that, someone named Half-Baked Takes wanted to talk to me about FBI corruption. They just basically like, yeah, I agree with everything you say, but we shouldn't disband the FBI. It was sort of nonsensical. Then I debated someone named Justin Freakin that was set up through this debate platform, which the moderator never showed up. He just wanted to police how I talked the entire time. It was basically worthless. Then I debated someone named Ellen DeGenerate, who, despite... I guess... I don't know if it'd be the low point or the high point, was them describing how they were putting Molly up their rectum. Then I debated this Ben Thorpe guy. I don't mind. I understand the nature of the beast being online and talking to people online, that you're going to get all sorts of comers, but it's the worst of the worst. And in different ways. Ben Thorpe and Justin Freakin were my only debate losses. Yeah, good stuff. These aren't productive conversations. They don't go anywhere. It's beneath me. And I don't mean it's beneath me because I'm like some pillar of intelligence or debate. That's not what I mean. I mean, it's beneath me in that I don't have any interest in this. I just don't. You know, Justin Freakin' and Half Baked Takes is worthless as those conversations were. I don't think that there's animosity in the sense that, you know, I'm personally aggrieved or anything of that nature. I mean, Ellen DeGeneres did say that I raped my wife and things of that nature, which is a bit much. Somehow, though, Ben Thorpe took the cake. Thanks, Mr. Neighbor Guy. I wish I did have a nationally syndicated radio show. I think I would love it. You know, for those that missed the debate with Ben Thorpe, let me break it down as succinctly as I can. The debate was whether or not we should trust sort of cultural and government institutions. My take was we should have a distrust as our default position, particularly now, today, and I was prepared to talk about many of those institutions and how they've lied to us or been so wrong so often just in the past 4 years. And Ben decided that he wanted to criticize the Enlightenment and say that we should have sort of, again, it was like a Christian nationalism debate. It's odd that I found myself debating Christian nationalism twice here in the past month or so. I also debated Zen Shapiro and Pedro, who were far more articulate and I had a far better time. Although Pedro's form of Christian nationalism I didn't mind because it did not, throw out the Constitution or anything like that. He just said we should make space for Christians to not be attacked. I agree with that. I don't have a problem with that. Zen Shapiro literally is calling for a Christian or an Eastern Orthodox oligarchy, a removal of the Constitution. I can't support that. But at least he's an intelligent person you can have a conversation with, But now I'm in this debate. Again, when you look at the debates I've had on sort of corruption surrounding like the FBI here recently, Half Baked Takes wants to debate me on it. His position is, totally agree with you on everything you say that's corrupt about the FBI, so I don't want to talk about it. What do you think we should do? Okay, so I have nothing to say on it. Justin Freakin', right, talking about corruption at the FBI. He's just like, oh man, it's a fallacy. Everything you're saying is fallacies. Well, I want to get to solutions. Like, what should we do? We should disband capitalism. So he has nothing to say on the specifics of the corruption. Just talks about disbanding capitalism. Guy called Crowdsourced Politics. I talked to him. He knew absolutely nothing about the corruption of the FBI. Then declares victory on Twitter afterwards, saying, I looked into it. The two hop rolls bullshit. They never spied on Donald Trump. Could not be more wrong. Offered to debate him on it again. He said no, he chooses not to because he got embarrassed. So there's another, I don't know the facts of what's going on person that didn't know the facts. Ellen DeGeneres, we started to talk a little about sort of COVID policies with corruption and FBI corruption. Had nothing to say on the specifics of the FBI corruption or anything like that. Then Ben Thorpe, we're supposed to be talking about these issues. He just says it's not the FBI. It's not that it's the root cause is thought. The root cause is ideas. We need to reject the Enlightenment. No one wants to talk about specific instances that we see of corruption. No one. And this is something that I find very interesting. I'm not a big brain thinker. Maybe someone will clip that. I don't think of myself as an academic. I think that there are people that specialize in philosophy and things like that, and some of them I enjoy listening to. That's not me. I don't think of myself as this like stoic person that's like, these are the principles that we need to discuss on like epistemology and to me, most people online that are in debate mode that are doing that stuff sound pretentious and not very intelligent to me. That's how it comes across to me. And on both sides of the ledger, you go in and like people, it reminds me of in the debate community when most times when you debated in policy debate like I did, you had one judge in the back of the room. But if you made it to the elimination round, so usually the way a tournament works is this, it's 6 or 8 rounds, and then after those 6 or 8 rounds, the final day, they take the top half of the teams, and it's just one-on-one elimination. And usually there's 3 to 5 judges, and most of the time 3 judges in the back of the room. And what you would see is this. Let's say, a lot of debates are very difficult to judge, like at the highest level. But at the lower level, most of the time it's pretty clear who won. Not always, but much of the time. And even at that level, you would see this where judges like one-up themselves. So let's say I speak first and I go, okay, I vote negative. I thought that it was an interesting debate, but ultimately there's just no real answer to the negative's position that, this would cost way too much money, which would drive the United States into deficit where we would be unable to maintain our military, which means that we would lose a military conflict with China. So I just don't see any answer to that, so that's how I vote. The next judge, 90% of the time, is going to be like, well, I see it like this. And they're going to get more detailed because there's this one-upsmanship. That's how I see a lot of this, You could be like, yeah, cultural Marxism. It's sort of setting up oppressors versus oppressed. Well, actually, it goes further to a Hegelian dialect. Yeah. Dialectics, and you have to understand, all of this. And if you go back and you read your Heidegger, it's like, right, okay. You're just saying, basically, very similar things to me with, $10 words. Like, hey, thanks for the super chat. I can't really see most of them right now, unless I'm looking at the screen, but I really appreciate it, Maurice. I really do. Thank you. Money, always appreciated. In competitive debate, did I often debate positions I didn't personally hold? All the time. In fact, one of the benefits of competitive debate, we called it switch side debating. It's, the argument I argued most was sort of business confidence and the importance of the economy. But I argued communism. I argued military interventions that I massively disagreed with. Yeah, it happened all the time. It's a game. It's not supposed to be. I had no problem standing up and advocating for the end of the white race or the end of men. That's whatever. If that's the context that the game's going in, I didn't take hard feelings to it. What it got weird was when they made it personal and about you. You're white, so you're evil. I didn't mind people saying in the abstract, white people shouldn't exist. But okay. We didn't have that debate. It's just a game. I don't take it personally. But when they say you personally are evil and shouldn't exist, that's a bit much. Nonetheless, not getting off on that tirade tonight. So, and I find that oftentimes these are the debates no one wants to talk the specifics of it. That's why I actually enjoyed that debate, even though it was horseshit, and I knew it was walking into it, where I debated Pisco on the sort of deletion of subpoenaed emails from Hillary Clinton's camp with Destiny moderating. I knew that it was basically a 2-on-1. I knew that Destiny didn't want to debate me on it, and so he feels like if he could take the position of the moderator, he could ultimately get his arguments in without having to take the L, which was exactly what his, position was. But at least, regardless of what you think of Pisco, at least that was a debate on the specifics of one of the issues of corruption that I think are important. Most people don't want to do that. They want to talk about this overarching philosophy that they have or something, and that could be interesting sometimes, but I'm sort of over it. I could do that. I don't mind. I have a philosophy. I have sort of an ideology. I haven't put it into words, like on paper or anything like that, but I could honestly convey what I believe in life. Pisco, my bad. That's more apt anyways. And so, what you end up seeing is, no one wants to talk the specifics really, which you're like, who gives a shit, Rob? You're just some rando with 40, 50 people watching, streaming on Twitch, YouTube, and most importantly, comfy.stream. Check me out over there. I'm streaming there tonight. So who gives a shit? Well, the problem is, it's not that it's not happening with me. The problem is it's not happening anywhere. That's the problem. You turn into the national news, they're not saying, oh, let's look at the specifics of exactly what happened with the FBI involving Crossfire Hurricane, the midterm exam, which was their name for the Hillary investigation, what's going on with the raid of Mar-a-Lago. Like, these things aren't happening. There's just these bubbles. You have people that are good talking about this stuff, like Glenn Beck will talk about it sometimes, or you have Jesse Kelly or Jack Posobiec, and you have Aaron Mattei and Matt Taibbi that are talking some of this. But there's no interaction. There's no debate. The other side wants no part of those people. You're not going to see them on... Aaron Mattei talks about this all the time. Why does he appear on Fox? Well, Fox is the outlet that will allow him. Tucker will talk to Aaron Mattei. No one on the left will. Jake Tapper doesn't want to talk to him. Rachel Maddow doesn't want to talk to him. Don Lemon doesn't want to talk to him because they have nothing to say. They'll get blown out of the water. So they have to keep their bubble. That's what I find frustrating. I enjoy challenging myself and talking the specifics of these. I learn more. Most of the time, I learn more about corruption as I talk about this stuff. But no one wants to talk about it. They agree to the debates, and then you get in and it's just like, yeah, I'm just going to change the subject to the Enlightenment and why we need a war on ideas. It's just nonsensical. So that's my first impression of the people that I've debated recently. It just sucks. I find that I'm more entertained most of the time just doing the show by myself. Which sucks because the most fun I ever have on this show is when I'm talking to someone competent. I'll do 5-6 hour talks. I talked to Econoboy about the economy, immigration stuff 6 hours one time. I've talked to Pisco several times about for 5-6 hours. These last people I've been debating, I honestly find myself halfway through it like, why am I here? What's the point? But last Friday, debating Ben Thorpe was actually the worst. It actually was I would characterize it as possibly the worst interaction I've had with someone since I've been streaming. Which is saying a lot. There have been those that have aggravated the piss out of me. There have been some that have resulted in me being doxxed. My work being contacted. But I actually was more uncomfortable by the end of that discussion with Ben Thorpe than in any other situation that I could think of when it came to streaming online. Have I debated BPF on anything? Many times. Gay marriage, twice. Christian nationalism, a little. We've debated against each other 3 times, I think. And as partners, 3 or 4 times. But, yeah, and I'm sure I'll be debating BPF again. So let me explain why this interaction with Ben was so bad. Ben's the first half of that debate was annoying. He came off as having a lot of hubris for unwarranted as far as I'm concerned. But something struck me as off about him right away. And at first I couldn't put my finger on it. And it's weird too because most of the time I do the smallest amount of research if I'm debating someone that I'm unaware of. Just to get a general idea of who they are. And I mean small. I mean like 5-10 minutes. Like I'll see, do they have a YouTube channel? I'll click on a video for 2 or 3 minutes to see kind of what to expect. Are they someone that's going to be like more, methodical and like sort of scholastic? Are they someone who's going to be joking around? Are they someone who's like very fiery? Like those are the sorts of things I'm looking, not necessarily their positions. I want to know, is it going to be someone I could joke around with, or is it going to be someone that, is going to be very cordial? Things like that. I like to know going in. So it makes for a better interaction, I think. With him, I didn't see it. I watched like 5 minutes of him debating BPF. And I thought BPF came off as like a little hostile. And I was like, it's odd. Like BPF could be hostile, but right at the beginning of this debate, it was like BPF's like, okay, this dude's been bugging me. Let's fucking go. And it was like this guy was clearly getting on BPF's nerves, but I didn't know him from anything. So I was just like, all right, whatever. And then I checked out some tweets that Ben had sent, and I always talk to my wife. I'm like, I got a debate tonight. She don't really give a shit about what I do as far as politics. but I'll talk to her a little at dinner or something. I was like, yeah, I could go upstairs. And she's like, oh, she knew that the past 3-4 debates I had were all crazy bullshit. She's like, well, you're debating some like crazy communist. What's going on tonight? I was like, and this is what I told her. I said, nah, he's like a guy, he's like my age or maybe a little older. Seems like a right winger. So, I don't anticipate it being a yelling match or anything like that. I said, I think he'll agree with me a lot. That's what I feel tonight. So that's what I expected going in. I didn't expect it to get weird. But then as soon as I started interacting with him, like after like the first 10-15 minutes, there was something off. And I couldn't, it's still hard to put into words. But it was like you could see that all of his interactions were being calculated, all of his claims were being calculated by him for the sole purpose of just trying to get views. It was like a guy trying to sell you a car. It wasn't someone that you felt like, oh, I'm just having a discussion about what this person believes. There's something behind it. Like he's trying to get something. That's what I was feeling. I was like, okay. I think the Jack Murphy thing I think's apt. That's what I think. I think, now listen, this is difficult to put into words. I think that there are people that could see the pendulum swinging, right? Go back to a time of maybe 2014, right? I could be completely wrong about the year, but there was a time when you had all of these sort of viral internet people that were conservative, like Milo, Gavin McInnes was on Rebel. You had these people that were, Milo was going to college campuses. He was wrecking feminists. And I think that there were people that saw, okay, how can I package myself similar to that and then put my message in there, Because it was clear that there were people thirsty for that, particularly young people. And Ben kept talking about young people, right? He kept talking about that. And I think that you look at someone like BPF or Zen Shapiro, etc., I think they are tapping into something. And it's not something that I'm tapping into. And I think that is, they're more focused on sort of Christian nationalism. I think the decadence we see is going to swing back. The super woke stuff for young people, the overt sexuality, things like that. I think that the writing's on the wall, and you can see this probably best with someone like Jordan Peterson, where there are a bunch of young people, particularly young men, that are like, we are looking for someone to listen to. And so it's like, well, how can I as a middle-aged guy package myself to that? And to me, it's organic when it comes to someone like Jordan Peterson, even though I don't agree with everything he says, or even someone like that's big into orthodoxy, like BPF or Zen Shapiro, because they're just saying, like, this is what we believe, and we think that it would be best for people, including young people. But Ben came off as specifically targeting that group, and I feel like he was just doing a bad impression of BPF or Zen. Or other people that speak like that. But I don't really give a shit about any of that. As far... No, I don't think BPF's trying to be Milo, don't get me wrong. That's not what I'm saying. Oh, yeah. And he won't get as big as Milo in that sense. Right? But Milo had charisma and he was funny. But the reason I brought up Milo was to just show someone had success and then other people were like, oh, I could get in that sphere and just put The left did a very good job. The left now dominates that sphere. The sort of speaking to younger people on online platforms. But I could live with all that. I don't give a shit. Look, at the end of the day, I don't even think that's necessarily immoral. I think that a lot of people get into streaming because they see it as a career, right? And they see it like, hey, I'm going to make money, I'll pay my dues, I'll stream it, and I'll be the next insert, I'll be the next Vosh, I'll be the next, Hassan, I'll be the next, maybe not even get that big, but you'll make enough to where it could be your career, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. There are problems with that, such as once you make it, well, then you got to be careful. You can't say anything to upset your audience or to upset the platforms that you're on. And then as a viewer, you have to ask yourself, does this person really believe what they're saying? Or are they just saying to pander to their crowd? You look at someone like Ethan from H3H3. He seemed more authentic when he was up and coming, and now it's like he's done a total 180, and he's just seemingly saying what the wokesters are saying because he hopes to stay in their good graces. But, so I'm just annoyed, so far in the debate. It's just annoying to me. And he does have the sort of, I didn't know Jack Murphy really well, but what I imagined that Jack had, which was this very, attempt at a masculine sort of portrayal. This is how things need to be. Stop with porn. Stop with obscenity. Christian values. Catholic values. Stop thinking for yourself. Humble yourself in front of God. Humble yourself in front of better men. I don't know that Jack said all that, but that was like, okay, I get it. I get what he's saying. Whatever. Not for me. I find that I find the idea that I should kneel before any man to be quite troubling. I have very little faith in other human beings. I'm always waiting to be disappointed, and I'm always right. And just like if you have faith in me, you will eventually be disappointed. That's human nature. Because, especially if you're religious, everyone falls short. So the idea that, we should stop ideas, stop free thought, never question our leaders or default to always accepting what they say, it's antithetical to everything I believe. So it's a little annoying, but, does that make Ben Thorpe a bad person? No, it made him boring to talk to. It was cliched. He was saying those sorts of things less articulately than someone like Zen Shapiro, who I had already had that debate with. Okay, whatever. But what really troubled me was when the stuff about his daughter came up. I don't even know what to say. It felt like I was involved in talking with someone, and not only just talking with them, but potentially helping that person exploit their daughter. And I didn't like it one bit. I felt like turning the camera off and saying, I'm done. I don't want any part of this. None. And then it got worse after the show when I saw sort of some of the videos, at least one of the videos that BPF showed me. And, my wife's texting me by the end of that show. My wife's texting me like, dude, just end the stream. Just end it. This is one of the creepiest fucking things you've been involved with. And she's right. So for those that didn't see it, so this is this Christian moralist, and he's talking about, he's slimy, he doesn't want to talk specifics, he's very good at deflecting. He says, we shouldn't be allowed to say that cops are racist. That led to people being hurt. And I said, okay, what other things should we not be allowed to say? Presumably your standard is, if it's not true and it could lead to someone being hurt, you shouldn't be allowed to say it. To which the obvious point I'm going to make is, but you say not to question the establishment, who does that all the time. They constantly say things that aren't true that could lead to people being hurt. Like they say Trump supporters are racist, or they're insurrectionist, or they say that Trump was a Russian spy. All of these things were said by the establishment, which ended up potentially being people being harmed. Steve Scalise got shot. So what's your standard for what should we be allowed to say in public, and what should the punishment be? But he won't answer that. He says, no, it's obscenity. Okay, so, but the first immediate reaction is, so you mean this guy that's talking about, Christian values and Catholic values, so much so that we should disband the First Amendment and the Second Amendment and outlaw things like obscenity and porn, is basically admitting that he puts his daughter out as eye candy for desperate young men so that they'll watch his show. So right out of the gate, it's like, this is counter to everything that you've been saying. And this is what's amazing to me. When people preach for authoritarian values, I don't mind having those debates. I don't. But when they show themselves to be blatant hypocrites, what that tells you is that their authoritarianism wouldn't be judiciously applied, right? So you could say someone is misguided, but not necessarily horrible or evil, if they were like, I support lockdowns, but I myself have locked down even harder than I've supported everyone else. I still think that person's wrong, that person shouldn't be in leadership, but I don't think they're immoral necessarily. And yet, over and over, what we saw was our leaders that forced lockdowns upon us that were breaking their own lockdown rules. That, to me, crosses the boundary from, okay, you're being... It's not normal hypocrisy, because normal hypocrisy would be like, saying like, hey, you should all drive Teslas, but then I'm driving, an Escalade. Like, it's like, yeah, you're a hypocrite. But forcing you to drive a Tesla, and then through law, and then getting caught violating that to me is worse. And that's what we saw these Democrats do all over the place, and some conservatives. Nancy Pelosi and Dianne Feinstein and Tom Wolf, my governor, said we were cowards if we didn't follow his lockdowns and then broke his own lockdown orders. And Gavin Newsom. And that's what I find particularly appalling. And this runs true through most of what I say on topics. For example, if you heard me on COVID, it was clear, more than I was railing against any specific medication or any specific suggestion for things we should do, I was against the forcing of it. I was against the mandates. If you want to wear a mask in your car while you're on your 12th booster, I don't give a shit. Have at it, man. Maybe you're right. I don't know. But I didn't want the government forcing shit on people. So that's right out of the gate. I'm like, so you're willing to advocate for sort of a religious oligarchy ran by the Catholic Church, removing the Bill of Rights, such as the First and Second Amendment, declaring war on people's thoughts. Okay, that's because you're this puritanical right guy, right? But then you're like, yeah, and I like my daughter to be eye candy for desperate young men to bring... Like, that right out of the gate, I'm like, what? So everything this guy just waxed on about is complete and utter garbage as far as I'm concerned. But then, more than just the position in that debate, this is what I could have accepted. Kind of. Right? If he would have been like, look, okay, I'm clearly joking. My daughter is an adult. She has a lot to say. I think it's cool she wants to help me out with our show. I think people should come listen to what she has to say. She has a lot to say. I'd still be skeptical, but okay. But he's admitting, yeah, she's cute. She's eye candy. Where's your attractive lady, Rob, to bring viewers on? And then he's explaining the type of guy. I like to talk to angry, desperate young men and have them introduced to my daughter. What? And then the coup de grace is, I don't know these people. Like, BPF's involved in knowing all these characters. I don't know Jim Bob. I don't know Ben Thorpe. I don't know them from anything. But when, he mentioned this guy Hormaxer, and he's a pickup artist, and I won't bore you with the details, but it was mentioned. Afterwards, BPF shows me the video. This was a video that Ben Thorpe himself put up on his channel, which was basically showing this guy showing off ball gags and other sex toys with basically in a Speedo in his underwear, shaking his body at this girl and saying that he was going to do very lewd things to her. And then you go back and you hear Ben admitting, yeah, we're in the process of setting up something to flying out to, we're going to fly out to Vegas and meet him. Dude, that's a guy talking about very explicitly using sex toys on your daughter in disgusting ways. And not only did you put a video up celebrating it, trying to get views, but now you're bragging about how you're trying to go out and meet them. I'm not going to dwell on it, but I actually got the vibe that that's literally a story that you might hear about in 2-3 years where something really bad happens to that girl. Where that girl's telling a story about like, yeah, I felt pressured. I had a bad experience. You know, I got doxxed by someone who's really crazy who was threatening me. I got stalked. You know, I felt pressured into a sexual relationship. I would not be shocked to hear something like that in the next couple years. And to think that I had even the most minuscule role in promoting that sort of shit is absolutely disgusting. So heretofore, I will never mention that guy again on my show. I will never talk to that guy again. End. That's it. That's the last I'll say on it. I don't want to give the guy any attention. I feel bad for his daughter. I feel gross. I'm sick and tired of the degeneracy and so many of these streamers are terrible, shitty people. And it's despicable. I like my show best when I'm interacting with people that disagrees with me in productive ways. And I'm seeing less and less of it. And it's because the left that normally I'm disagreeing with cannot defend their authoritarian, corrupt bullshit that they voted for. And so now they have to make it all about irrelevant bullshit. It's not just they're people and people are shitty. Yeah, that's true. It's worse than that, though. It's worse than that. For example, I could go to my local bar and talk to a bunch of drunks, and they're not going to be as shitty in the same ways. Now, I didn't hear anything about Amaranth and her husband. I didn't hear, I vaguely heard someone mention it. I know there was drama with Ms. Kim. Look, Aftershock nailed this. The lefties that talk politics, they want to talk about drama because they can't defend politics right now. And if Republicans win the House and the Senate, and then bad shit happens, which it will, and we're going to talk about that in a second, then they'll want to talk politics again because they feel they can blame Republicans. Aftershock tweeted out today, I didn't see this, but he tweeted out that Destiny said on his show that if Biden left office today, it is the most successful first term of a president ever. It is laughable. It's laughable. We're on the cusp of World War III with a nuclear-armed superpower. Inflation is out of control. The border is porous. Record high fentanyl deaths. What has Biden done? That's the credibility of the people and Destiny's one of the better ones. So with bold claims like that, it's no wonder that he wants to talk about Mizkiff drama. Oh, Amaranth said her husband forced her to be a hot tub streamer. Maybe. It's. I'm not here to make friends in a like I said. I liked CTV. I don't know. I know a lot of my audience didn't like what he said. I thought CTV didn't have an ideology that was consistent throughout all of his beliefs. But I thought he seemed like a nice guy. I didn't think he was the best debater or anything like that. He seemed like a nice guy. But fundamentally, I think what CTV wanted was friends. He wanted an online community. I don't really give a shit about that. I don't. That doesn't mean that I don't like a lot of people that are in my audience. I do. But that's not why I do it. And if that's your number one priority, then stuff will happen. Right? You'll have a disagreement with people you thought were friends. For CTV, I think he was doing Dylan Burns' show, and, he was buddy-buddy with all these lefties, and they looked at him as like this goofy, he's the good conservative. And then he did a little joke, right, where he put the pride flag in a way that it kind of was 4 pride flags and that looked like a swastika, and he got kicked off Twitter, or Twitch, for a while. And where were all of his friends? Well, they were all condemning him. And I think it was too much for him. Because they were never really his friends. And that's what he wanted. I think. I'm just reading into shit. I don't know. But I only bring it up to say, that's not really why I'm here, so it's easy for me. I could yell at Aftershock or BPF today on something, and it's not the end of the world. I'm not doing a hot tub stream. So it's just, I don't know. All of us streamers, to some extent, are fucking egomaniacs. 90% of us. I'm included in that. We're contentious. And it's... You see, I could get, I guess I'm just frustrated. The Ben Thorpe thing was frustrating in the same way that the previous 5-6 debates I had was. Not all of them. The guy on climate change was okay. But where it's just like, I could take my microphone and knock on neighbors' doors and get a better fucking political conversation than these people that are supposedly streamers talking about politics. And it's absolutely worthless. And it's just frustrating. Because it's like, why even spend time interacting with these people? I'd go to any job and talk to people and find much more meaningful conversation than spending 2.5 hours on a Friday night, talking to Justin Freakin or Ellen DeGenerate or Ben Thorpe. Right, Aftershock, that's what I'm saying. I don't even need a top debater. I just want someone who's willing to talk about... I don't want it to... I don't mind the philosophical debate. That's fine. I could have it once in a while. I'd like to talk about an issue. Corruption, immigration, economy, COVID, whatever. Anytime I talk about corruption, people ignore it. Same with Truth COVID. Remember when Sonsol was getting back to me? He was going to read the evidence, then he was getting back to me. How'd that work? Ruminate, remember? He said, I got wrecked. He was going to read the evidence and come back to me. How'd that work? But instead we'll have hard-hitting debates like, Rob, do you think we're doing a panel and the question is, if someone has a tattoo that looks like an underage person on their body and they're filming themselves having sex, is that child pornography? I mean, that's literally a topic. Oh, there's Sonsol. Talking shit on him. There he is. Well, Sonsol, the reason that it's difficult is because the data's just on my side. But I am happy you got a job. I will kiss, now that I'm making fun of Sonsol, I will kiss his ass here a little. Sonsol is someone I like interacting with. And it's funny because a lot of people in my community be like, I don't like Sonsol. Dude, Sonsol's a breath of fucking fresh air compared to these lunatics I've been debating. And I know he sees it too. I've seen some of the debates he's been involved with people that think they're vampires. They want vampire pronouns and shit. It's insane. I can't wait. And I know someone like Sonsol will disagree with me on what is a return to normalcy and sanity. But my God, these online spheres and the lunatics you run into, I've just had it. I know Sonsol. It's fine. But even like Sonsol I like more than Pisco. Pisco I don't mind debating though. I usually find it to be somewhat productive. I feel the same way about Dylan. I might disagree heavily on things, but I at least feel we're talking about a topic. It's in the realm of reality. So anyways, that's it. I'm done. I'll never mention that guy. At least I hope not, that I debated there the other night. I find it to be disgusting. I find it to be very troubling, and I wish his daughter well. And I hope that cooler heads prevail, and that sort of, the situation isn't what it seems. Because if it is what it seems, it's very immoral, and it's disgusting. And it's always funny to see the people that wax the most about morality and forcing their morality through government on you that are engaged in some of the most amoral shit. I just always find it humorous. And if that comes from the right wing, like supposedly that guy was, then I'm going to call it out. I don't give a shit. I don't care. All right, moving on to John Fetterman, which was the title of the stream. Now, I know Fetterman because I'm in Pennsylvania. Fetterman is the lieutenant governor. Fetterman, if I'm going to steel man to make him look as best as possible, Fetterman to people of a certain stripe seems very likable. This is pre-stroke, right? This is Fetterman as lieutenant governor and Fetterman in the primary for the Democrat. He seems like a guy that is approachable. Now, you might say on the right wing, he seems like a woke lunatic. Yeah, true. But to the left, that's approachable. I don't know how to put it better. A lot of the strategy that's been used to go after Fetterman actually plays right into his strength. Well, he dresses dumpy. He wears hoodies. His mom had to help him out. His parents paid for him. Now, there are arguments that you could make that are very nuanced to why that stuff sort of matters. But the easiest sell to make is he's a man of the people. Who amongst us hasn't had help from our parents? You'd be like, yeah, but Rob, my parents didn't pay for me for 25 years while I had a basically nothing government job. Maybe, but that's hard to argue. In small bits, with people's attention span. He dresses dumpy. Great. So? I've been on the phone talking to Republicans that's their big criticism of John Fetterman. The guy wears hoodies everywhere. So what? Yeah, I could explain to you for 20 minutes why that's not the best. For example, should you wear a hoodie to your father's funeral? Probably not. It's a more formal thing. You should probably dress better. Are there times when you're a senator or a lieutenant governor where you should be better dressed than Fetterman has been? Sure. That's like complete number 87 I have of John Fetterman. If that's all you got, then you might as well just keep your mouth shut. Why was it even being discussed? I don't get it. I get you, Crisco, yeah. And Fetterman had sort of this Bernie Sanders-esque appeal where he believes a lot of if you had to pick a known national politician that Fetterman's position's most aligned with, it's probably Bernie Sanders. And to a lot of young people that Bernie appealed to, having a younger guy like Fetterman, who I believe's in his 40s, that's good, right? For them. That makes him likable. Okay? And so he was a popular candidate for a segment of people, particularly for the left. Progressives really like Fetterman. He's seen as a fighter. He's seen as someone who will call out their opponents. Big Papa Fash. I don't hate Big Papa. I like Big Papa Fash. I can't say the same of the majority of people I've been interacting with online lately, though. Like that guy the other night. Jesus. But that was the selling points of Fetterman. Right? So if you're a lefty that's like, look, I pinched my nose and voted for Joe Biden, Fetterman's seen as a guy that's like, this is more the candidate that we wanted. It would be, and most of my audience is on the right, so it would be like, you pinched your nose and voted for Mitt Romney, but you really wanted Ron Paul. That's what it's like. And so I understand when I talk to left-wing friends of mine, they're like, oh boy, we're excited for Fetterman. I understand where they're coming from. Now, Objectively, many of his policies are shit, as you're seeing. The socialism crap sucks. His time as lieutenant governor sucked. The idea that, one of the big issues that's going to be a big voting issue in Pennsylvania is crime. Fetterman's terrible on it. He wants to make us basically New York City. But if you're just looking at it from the perspective of a guy running in the Democratic primary and why would he have support, I'm just being honest with you. Those are the things that what's he? He's seen as a fighter. He's seen as a progressive, younger than Bernie. And he seems like a man of the people, kind of. I'm not saying I agree with that, but I understand that's the appeal, right? The problem is, much of that has to do with, there are the policy positions, which I just think are losers. Like the letting people out of prison, that sort of shit, that's massive socialism. I think those are losers in general, in Pennsylvania and most places around the country. We'll talk about who I think will win, Captain, in a bit here. So that's what's going on, But a lot of when I talk to people that are Fetterman fans, it's his likability for them. He's a fighter. He's likable. A lot of similar things, believe it or not, that a lot of Trump supporters said about Trump. There were a segment of Trump supporters that could have gave a shit less what his policies were. In fact, I don't think Trump's ideology and policies were his strong suit. I happen to agree. I think he was dead on about immigration. All the Republicans were telling him to shut up about it, and he was absolutely right. Not only was he right for what's good for the country, but he's right that there were a lot of voters that agreed with him. And the Republicans didn't want that, But a lot of the issues, when you talk to people are like, I like Trump, he's fighting back, he's putting these fuckers in their place. I say that. I said that a lot. So when we're looking at Fetterman's character, yeah, there's the case of, for those that don't know, he chased a black jogger with a shotgun when he was mayor of Braddock. He claims that he heard over the scanner or something that there was a suspect fleeing a robbery, thought that he heard a gunshot, which later turned out to be firecrackers or something, went out with his shotgun, saw this black man jogging, held him at gunpoint until the police got there. For what it's worth, it's difficult to find information on this, but I'm just trying to be as honest as possible. I have seen somewhere an article where that jogger said that Fetterman basically never apologized and he made excuses, and Fetterman's version of events were incorrect, but he said he would still be voting for Fetterman. Now, this is the reason that this is interesting. I'll be honest with you. Is this a disqualifying factor? No. For me, it's not. Sounds like bad judgment. Sounds like big man syndrome. Some man that was going out there and was going to show everyone how big his balls were or something. And it was not a good thing. I don't necessarily think it's disqualifying. But when you're Mr. Black Lives Matter, Mr. Systemic Racism, certainly not a good look. But that's an issue that people have been talking about that speaks to his character. But to me, the issue that speaks to his character the most is actually the same non-character reason to reject him. And that's his stroke. Hey, if I get a mod, on YouTube, can you... Well, how is the stroke a character issue? So for those that don't know, Fetterman had a stroke. It was quite serious. He won't release his medical data. And it's now obvious, and it has been obvious for a long time, but now it's obvious even to the point where the national media has to admit it's causing significant problems with his ability to understand spoken word. If I was a Democrat, I would be absolutely furious at John Fetterman. Because Fetterman had the stroke before the Democratic primary. He could have dropped out, and they could have got someone who was a Democrat that would have had a better chance against Dr. Oz. That's not to say that Fetterman's guaranteed to lose. But he didn't, because he's selfish. Thanks, Khalil. Now if he drops out, that's it. It's too late to get someone else on the ballot for the Democrats. That's an automatic win for Dr. Oz. So now Democrats, they have to say, well, it's no big deal, he has a stroke. And that's, to me, the story. Yes, it's troubling that a guy running for Senate who may win had a stroke and literally can't understand people's spoken words. He is out of it. The videos are depressing. They're sad. I'm not saying this. I did a whole episode a month or two ago about things that piss me off with the Republicans. And one of the things I spent a lot of time talking about was Dr. Oz's campaign manager basically mocking Fetterman for having a stroke. Should have ate more vegetables. Fucking stupid. Now, it was more nuanced than that. She was saying that he ignored medical advice. And that's what she was mocking. But nonetheless, it's stupid. It was just a dumb thing to say. So I'm not here mocking Fetterman for having a stroke. That's not what I'm doing. I don't like John Fetterman. I didn't like him before he had a stroke. I didn't like him when he was lieutenant governor. I probably didn't know him before then. But I don't wish physical illness upon him. I don't wish his life to fall apart. Much like with Joe Biden and his dementia. Yeah, it's funny. Things happen with that you're like, oh my God. It's what's funny about the Biden thing is, and it's somewhat can be said of the Fetterman thing is, just how screwed we are. That's what's funny about the Biden thing. Like when you watch the Easter Bunny having to direct Joe Biden around, you can't help but kind of chuckle because you're like, we're fucked. Are you serious? That's the joke. The joke's not, oh, this poor old man, haha, I'm going to make fun of him. The joke is like, wow, this is what we have to accept? So Fetterman is in no position. And look, my friend Tom, he messaged me before the primary. He's a Democrat, and he was like, how bad do you think Fetterman's medical case is? Because that was going to affect who he voted for. I'll be interested to talk to Tom to see if he's still going to vote for Fetterman. Tell you what you don't like about Biden so far. Yeah, go back and watch my debate with Destiny. And then magnify it times 5. It's got that much worse. Yeah, POTUS did have some ice cream here, at least yesterday. Yeah, nice. Chocolate chip. Good stuff. But to me, the bigger story is everything that's happening surrounding this. Like, to me, almost more clearer than any of all the situations that occur that show you the corruption of our institutions and the lying of our institutions. Maybe Fetterman's stroke and what we've seen this past week and a half is the most clear cut of just how shameless these people are. Now, in case you haven't been following, here's basically what occurred. 2 weeks ago, if you were to put clips up of John Fetterman obviously fumbling over his words, only giving like 3-minute speeches, being incoherent, they said, you're taking it out of context. That's bullshit. That's not what's going on. There's nothing wrong with them. That's what you were told 2 weeks ago. Then he was interviewed by a woman from NBC or MSNBC. Part of that interview was that they had to have microphones set up that basically captioned what they were saying to him. In other words, he couldn't understand the spoken words, so the spoken words had to then be put on screen for him to read. And that journalist, whose name I forget, basically came out and said, listen, before the interview was being recorded, we were just having like friendly chit chat. He had no idea what I was saying. He could not understand what she was saying. Yeah, and Khalil's right. If you watch the interview, he doesn't do a good job with the computer interpreter either. So anyways, this journalist comes out and's like, yeah, he's not in good shape. And knives have come out for this woman. How dare she? Then the narrative switched to, well, of course he had a stroke. Of course he's having problems. How dare you mock someone with a disability? Would you say that someone that's wearing glasses can't run for office? So we've gone from, there's nothing wrong with him, to half a week later, well, of course something's wrong with him. He had a stroke. And how dare you bring that up? Well, Biden's done a lot of good for his side. Biden made no bones about firing a bunch of people in the executive agencies that he thought were on his side. You know, they play for keeps. Should play a clip. You don't know anything about it. All right, let's see what I can find. It's difficult for me because I'm... Here's some clips of
I had a stroke, you all know that? I had a stroke, you all know that? I want to give a big, thank you. I got to give a local shout out for pain medicine for saving my life.
That wasn't the best clip, but a loco shout out. Let's see. Is this not working?
Questions as we asked them. And Lester, in small talk before the interview, without captioning, it wasn't clear. No, Lester, because of his stroke.
He suffered a stroke. And Dasha, this was not a typical candidate interview.
No, Lester, because of his stroke, Fetterman's campaign required closed captioning technology for this interview to essentially read our questions as we asked them. And Lester, in small talk before the interview, without captioning, it wasn't clear he was understanding our conversation.
Can voters trust that you will be able to do this job on day one?
Thanks for the sub.
Yeah, of course.
This is Pennsylvania Democratic Senate candidate John Fetterman's first in-person sit-down interview since a stroke sidelined him from the campaign trail for months.
That auditory processing where I'll hear someone speaking, but sometimes I'll be able to be precise on what exactly that they're saying. I use captioning.
His campaign required that he be allowed to use a transcription program on his computer during our interview.
I always thought I was pretty empathetic, emphatic. I think I was very, empathetic. That's an example of the stroke, empathetic. Yeah. I always thought I was very empathetic before having a stroke. But now, after having that stroke, I really understand much more kind of the challenges that Americans have day in and day out.
So you say you're on the road to full recovery, but right now, voters really have to take your word for it. We've asked for your medical records. We've asked to have a conversation with someone from your medical team, to interview your physician. You've declined those requests. Why?
Well, I feel like we have been very transparent in a lot of different ways. When our doctor has already given a letter saying that I'm able to serve and to be running.
I mean, respectfully, that letter from your physician, that was 6 months ago. Don't voters deserve to know your status now?
Being in front of thousands and thousands of people and having interviews and getting around all across Pennsylvania, that gives everybody and the voters decide, if they think that it's really the issue.
Polls show Fetterman's lead is shrinking against Republican Dr. Mehmet Oz. It's now a toss-up race that could determine control of the Senate. Republicans focusing on crime. In particular, Fetterman's votes on the parole board.
Fetterman says he's trying to get as many criminals out of prison as he can,
including votes in favor
Thanks
of paroling convicted murderers.
Are you soft on crime?
Of course not. I'm actually effective on crime, and I believe in second chances, and I've run on that record.
Meanwhile, Fetterman going after Dr. Oz on abortion rights.
Dr. Oz likes to make fun of me that I might miss a word, but he's missed 2 words, and that is a yes or no on the national abortion ban. If you're going to be our next senator, you have to give the answer.
Lester, Fetterman told us he is committed to debating Dr. Oz on October 25th, where he will also be using closed captioning.
Well, we don't need that. But there's just clip after clip you could find of Fetterman where he's stumbling over his words. He doesn't know what he's saying. He's, like they said, this is his first interview since he's had the stroke in 6 months. He's basically like Biden was. He's hiding in a basement. He's running his campaign through Twitter, where he has people that are just... Now, this reporter, the Democrats have gone after her. How dare she say in that clip that he couldn't understand? How dare she say that? And that's what they want you to believe. And you could see all this on Twitter, just how insane. Now, one other thing I want to say real quick. I thought it was funny. I had the video I did on Herschel Walker. Here, I'll show you. And I got a bunch of trolls responding to my video. One of the things that the trolls were saying over and over again was, in the chat, Senate in my claim that the Democrats have no limits on abortion is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Here, let me show you. P.S. Abortions in 9 months. I'm sure you got that line from Trump. Who actually said that? An abortion after birth? I've heard a lot of people saying Democrats want abortion up to 9 months. I don't think I've heard anyone say that. Can you point to me where you want? And they're saying that all through the chat here. Now let's go. Again, we can see left-wing politician after politician have admitted that is the official position of the Democrats. There should be no law restricting abortion, period. It should be up to a doctor and the woman, which means that if a doctor and a woman say a 9-month abortion, totally acceptable. Here's Fetterman today.
Do you support any restrictions on abortion?
I don't. I've always believed...
Even in the 3rd trimester?
I believe that choice is between a woman, her doctor, and a God if she prays to one.
Do you support...
There you go! But just so you know, I had all kinds of people coming on my channel, going to my videos, saying, that's a lie! That's not the Democrat position. It is! It's monstrous! Republicans could do a better job of talking about it. That's their position. So to watch the national media and the Democratic Party now, all of a sudden, it's a strong suit that Fetterman had a stroke. 2 weeks ago, they were saying, you're taking things out of context, saying that he's suffering from his stroke. That's out of context. Now it's, well, of course he is. And how dare you point it out? How many of the Democrats in the media do you think that are absolutely not only fine with Fetterman having a stroke to the point where he can't understand spoken words and needs closed captioning. How many of them do you think is fine also thought that Donald Trump needed to be looked at by a doctor and should have been removed with the 25th Amendment? Show me what the Democrat position is, really, Doe. Go ahead, show me. What's Biden's position? Tell me what Joe Biden's position is. Go ahead. I keep hearing it's not their position. Point to me what their position is. Joe Biden's the president. What's his position? I know what his position is. Do you? Here. He was asked point blank. His press secretary was asked point blank. What's Joe Biden's position on abortion? Because that's all we keep hearing from the lefties that come in here. Oh, no, that's not the Democrat position. That's just, and then one by one, when you're like, well, here's this guy saying it. Here's this person saying it. Here's this. Well, that's just their position, not the Democrat.
Require a majority of stakeholders here. So it is a partnership. That is how we see this. Okay, Peter.
Thanks, Green. Following up on your topper, does President Biden favor any limits on abortion?
We've been very, very clear here. Since you're talking about my topper, I was talking specifically about Senator Lindsey Graham.
And your position on his plan is clear. 15 weeks is unacceptable.
I was speaking directly to what Republicans are trying to do. So they are calling for a national ban, which takes us backwards. Which will weeks, right? It's a national ban which will take us backwards and will put at risk the health of women. And here's the thing about this, Peter. It's not just national ban on abortion. We're talking about privacy. We're talking about contraception. We're talking about marriage. That is what extreme Republican officials are trying to do. That's what we're speaking to. I'm not going to get into specifics here. I'm just going to lay out what they have said that they're going to do.
Why not get into specifics? The Republicans are saying we don't want abortion after 15 weeks. Why can't you say how many weeks a president thinks the limit
as you
should be?
as you know, Kevin McCarthy put out the GOP agenda.
I'm not asking about Kevin McCarthy. I'm asking about Joe Biden and his position on abortion. How many weeks?
Peter, I'm answering your question. What Republicans are trying to do is take us backwards. They're trying to take away the rights and
go ahead, really, Doe. What's his position?
That's what
go ahead.
Calling out, and that's what we're going to continue to call out. House Republicans oppose a pharmacy bill that would deny women essential medications. As of September, 166 House Republicans have signed onto a heartbeat bill that would decide abortion at the federal
what's Biden's position?
Even though 28 of those members have since said decisions on abortion should be left to the state. And this week, a Michigan GOP official said he wants to ban contraception. So we should really listen to what Republicans are trying to tell us. And that's what we are speaking out against, and that's what we're going to talk about.
What is it really, Doe? All right? It's just my imagination. That's all it is. It's my imagination. It's not that's the Democrat position. Now, notice how really Doe then changes. Right? Now his statement is, well, that's not what most Democrats. I don't give a fuck what the person that votes Democrat thinks. When I talk about what the Democrat position is, I mean the people that are in office, that are crafting laws. That's who I'm talking about. So you might say, well, I'm a Democrat and I don't believe in that. Maybe so. But the leaders that you voted on are the people that believe those positions. That is clearly what I'm talking about when I say this is what Democrats support. Chuck Schumer supports it. Joe Biden supports it. Nancy Pelosi supports it. Fetterman supports it. I would be interested to see a prominent Democrat up for election that has came out vocally and said, I am not for third trimester abortions. But really knows, well, just because that's what all the Democrats in power believe, you shouldn't say that's the Democrat position, because I'm Democrat and I don't believe that. Joke. Anyways, back to Fetterman. So, the issue is just how they're willing to gaslight you. How quick they're willing to change. Well, of course he's had a stroke. So what? No big deal. Donald Trump, it was, we think this man, remember, they had him, they had video of him doing a cognitive test. Then with Joe Biden, who any objective person would look at Joe Biden compared to Donald Trump and say, if one of these two people seems to be more mentally unfit, it's clearly Joe Biden. They don't have a problem with it. Really, though, with some of the biggest cope you'll ever see, when you say Democrats believe something, it implies the people who vote Democrat believe it as well, and most of us don't. I don't give a shit. You're bad faith. You're a sack of shit, really, though. I'm going to go to YouTube right now and make so I can't see your comments because I'm tired of wasting my time on sacks of shit like you. Everybody knows that when I'm talking about the Democrat position on abortion, I am talking about the people in office. You saying that that's not the position, and then saying because I'm Democrat, me and my Democrat friends don't believe that way, so therefore that's what I meant. You're clearly a sack of shit, arguing in bad faith. I choose to not interact with you anymore. That's not what Democrats believe. It's just the people we keep voting for, what they all believe. Great, got it. But it gets worse. Oops. One sec. Maybe I can find this. Okay, 1 second. Okay, this is kind of work. Here's the New York Times take on Fetterman, right? John Fetterman's a disabled American who needs technology to do his job. So what? Now, Fetterman was just saying the other day he didn't have cognitive damage. But there's a whole article from the New York Times saying, who cares? So what? He's having trouble speaking. Right? That's New York Times for you, right? New York Times, a couple days later, Herschel Walker is an absolute butcher of the American language, but Republicans will elect a man without command of the English language or the issues that gives them command of the seat in the Senate. You see, when a black man doesn't speak perfect English, well, we can't elect him. He's not articulate. But John Fetterman, oh, well, no problem. That's right. How do we know it's just speech? Again, they refuse to release their medical records of Fetterman. He can't process language, right? This is not difficult. At the rate we're going, and understand this, I talked about when Biden got elected. In many ways, Biden's the perfect establishment candidate. He's a man with cognitive decline and dementia, and so he's literally a puppet. He'll go out and do what they say. As long as they give him ice cream and some kid's hair to sniff, he'll be fine. Yeah, just say what we say, Joe. Stay on script. Then when he starts meandering, Joe Biden's there to grab him and be like, nope, this way, come on. Now, the debate's supposed to be like the 29th, but he's asking for all sorts of technology, and he wants questions pre-done, and blah, 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 blah. So he's basically trying to make a bunch of stipulations to get out of the debate. Oz wanted to do like 4 debates. At the rate the establishment's going, the next candidate for president for the Democratic Party will be someone in a coma. And then you'll be told, wait a minute, that person's in a coma, they haven't been conscious for 20 years, maybe they're not qualified to be president of the United States. And they'll say, how dare you, you bigot? You hate people with disabilities? Would you say that someone with glasses isn't qualified to be president? And you'll be like, what? The guy's in a coma. How dare you, bigot? If Fetterman wins, it shows, again, what I've been talking about. The candidate no longer matters. When our media, our tech companies, our institutions all back one side, if they can get that across the finish, if they can get John Fetterman across the finish line, if they can get Joe Biden across the finish line, where will we go from here? Right, a physical disability, someone in a wheelchair, that's clearly different. Absolutely. It's surreal. Yeah, it's true. Women can be unconscious too. Yeah. Well, this guy, he's a blackout drunk. He gets blackout every night. So, do you have something against people that have memory issues? Elect the blackout drunk. Now, it'll never be that way with the Republicans. Of course not. Oh my God, he has medical issues. We need to be aware of his medical issues before we can elect him. That's what they said about Trump. Oh, he's slightly overweight. That's an issue. But Fetterman's stroke, we can't talk about it. Yes, cognitively, he should not be elected. But it also speaks to his character. This man is such a narcissist and so greedy that instead of taking a step back before the primary and saying, I had a stroke, I can't do this now, and allowing another Democrat to take over, he said, I'm okay, I'm fine. Now that's bad for the people of Pennsylvania. But that's even more offensive to Democrats. Because if you're a Democrat and you believe, oh, well, I think Dr. Oz is terrible and I think the Republicans are terrible and this election is very important to stop them, and you find out that your best chance of winning had to go by the wayside because a man named John Fetterman was greedy and lied to everyone about his medical situation. Well, it has nothing to do with whether there's a right from medical secrecy from the government. It's a completely different issue whatsoever, right? The issue is whether or not as voters you have a right to know a guy who's clearly struggling cognitively. You have a right to, before the vote, see what his medical records are. I don't think legally you should have the right that he has to turn them over to the voters, but morally it's the right thing to do. So just what, the next time they tell you, when the next story comes out and it's like, oh, you know, Trump Mar-a-Lago, according to NBC News, according to the New York Times, they're fucking lying to you right now. They lied to you 2 weeks ago when they said Fetterman didn't have issues. They're coming knives out for the, so what? So what? He has cognitive issues. So what? It's pathetic. It's transparent. That's what's going on. Now, do I think he'll win? I don't think so. Do I think Dr. Oz is a great candidate? No. Actually, this whole situation makes me even more upset that the primary for the Republicans went the way it did. Because a Carla Sands or a Kathy Barnett that was actually more America First type people, the knock on them in the Republican, party was, are they electable? Sure, they're saying things that the populist right likes, but will they lose a general election? Maybe that's an argument if they're running against a guy who didn't have a stroke. Yeah, Dr. Oz got Trump's endorsement. Trump was wrong. Trump's endorsed a lot of bad people. Trump's put a lot of bad people around himself. Maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised with Dr. Oz. I would put the chances of that at about 5%. But he's going to be better than Fetterman. Phone blowing up here. But what the hell do I know? According to all the lefties, Joe Biden's the best president that's ever existed. Already. So, I think that Oz and Mastriano will both win. I do. I'm going to be trying to do my best. Also, I thought it was funny. I mentioned that I tweeted out that I would be trying to get Mastriano elected. And some people, commented on my tweet on that, including our friend Omar from the Third Rail, that just said that it was laughable. I don't understand why he thinks that's laughable. Omar gets crushed every time he calls in. And the idea that I'm going to do what I can to help someone get elected is laughable, according to someone like Omar. What's he done? All these people I hear that, all the great things they've done. What have they really done? I don't know. Yeah, I wish I had more influence. I don't claim I don't big man like other people. I don't go on here. I'm a mover and shaker. I could do this. I can make phone calls. I can knock on doors. I can make videos. I can convince my friends and people I know that I talk to why they should get out and make sure they're voting. Yeah, I did Aftershock. I talked about it, yeah. What a joke. I didn't see that clip, but, it's a joke. So, that about wraps it up. What's up, my neighbor guy? What's my Twitter handle? It's Nor Robert. I can't put stuff in the chat, so if someone could put my link to my Twitter. It's at Nor Robert, so 3 R's in a row. Noerrrobert. So, all right, we're gonna wrap it up here. If you didn't know, I do home health care. I got some crazy work stuff coming up because we have our yearly inspections coming up. So I got a lot of work to do. It's not bad. I'm not digging ditches, you know, but it's still work. So I'm gonna try to be doing. Hopefully, by the election, we have 2,000 subscribers. I'm gonna do a special 2,000 subscribers show. Try to do a 24-hour show the Saturday before the election. So that would be what, November. Let's see, November 5th. I think that'll be November 5th. So hopefully I don't look like a chump and do a 2,000 subscriber show before that. Also, one other thing, I talked to Aftershock about this. I do apologize. My computers suck all around. They just fucking suck. My computer I bought at home, it was like a $600 Acer. It cannot handle live streaming through StreamYard. When I've live streamed through Discord, it's worked. But apparently Aftershock said that I was lagging something terrible with my debate Friday night. So I'm going to try to purchase another computer. So if you send donations, that's where my first priority for my channel is. To buy a desktop that could handle it. I'm not going to buy another laptop. And the reason for that is I don't want to be streaming when I'm at work and stuff anyways. So the streams I do mobilely are going to be like you see now, which doesn't require a better computer. I don't think that just having audio is causing lag issues. But yeah, that's the gist of it. So I do appreciate everyone's donations. Let's find someone to raid if I can. And then I got some work to do. Oh, my buddy Sparky's on. Let's raid him. All right. Thank you all so much. I appreciate each and every one of you. Except people that waste my time. Oh, I say Democrats. I didn't mean the elected Democrats. I meant the people that I kiss my ass. Other than that, I appreciate all of you. And I hope that you all have a fantastic day. And I'll see you for another audio-only show probably here 9 p.m. tomorrow night. Thank you so much, everyone. And as always, have a good one.